Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving headfirst into something, well, a bit unsettling, but honestly increasingly true in cybersecurity. It's this idea that a breach isn't just some distant possibility, it's often just inevitable. How do you protect yourself when the bad actors seem to be everywhere, constantly changing tactics, and, traditional defenses just aren't keeping up?
Yeah, that shift in thinking is really the core of it, isn't it? Moving from trying to block absolutely everything to accepting, okay, some things will get through, and then focusing super intensely on how fast you can spot it and shut it down.
Absolutely. And that perspective is so critical. It perfectly sets the stage for our topic today. Endpoint detection and response, or EDR. This is, well, it's become a crucial technology for defending against these modern cyber threats that just seem to slip past everything else.
Hmm.
So, our mission today is to unpack EDR. What is it? Why is it basically essential now? What are the common headaches organizations face trying to implement it? And specifically, how one solution, Genie and EDR, brings some pretty unique approaches to the table. A lot of its insights come from serious experience in some very demanding real-world
That
situations.
real-world testing is key.
Exactly. We've got a comprehensive analysis of Genie and EDR to dig into, and we're going to pull out the most important nuggets for you. So let's get into it. From Genian's perspective, maybe starting there. What exactly is EDR and why is it so indispensable right now?
Well, Jeanine calls it an endpoint abnormal behavior detection and response solution. Fundamentally, it's about quickly spotting and dealing with security threats right there at the endpoint, your laptop, server, mobile device, whatever it is. And their approach, it's actually built on 2 decades of experience as a leader in network access control, or NAC. That gives them a pretty specific viewpoint on endpoint security.
Ah, okay. So it's not just appearing out of nowhere. It actually grows out of that long history in network control. That definitely sounds like a unique starting point. But, for those of us who've relied on our antivirus, maybe endpoint protection platforms, EPPs, why aren't they cutting it anymore? Why the need for EDR?
That's a really sharp question. It gets right to the core issue. Traditional AV and EPPs, they're mainly about prevention, right?
Hmm.
Blocking known bad stuff. But modern threats are just so much more sophisticated.
Mm,
We're talking ransomware that changes constantly, zero-day exploits those attacks, using flaws nobody even knows about yet. And these advanced persistent threats, APTs, stealthy determined attackers.
right.
These advanced attacks often just waltz right past initial prevention because, well, they're designed to be evasive. EDR comes in because it assumes those frontline defenses might fail.
So it's like being ready for when, not if, something slips through. It almost feels like cybersecurity is less about building higher walls now and more about having, I don't know, really sophisticated motion detectors inside the castle.
Precisely. That's the EDR paradigm shift. Instead of just blocking knowns, EDR continuously watches everything happening on the endpoint. It uses behavioral analytics, looks for subtle clues, indicators of compromise, IOCs, or patterns of behavior tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs. It's an adaptive approach focused on spotting things fast, containing them, and recovering. Because, like you said, breaches are basically seen as inevitable. For anyone managing endpoints, EDR is just indispensable now for resilience.
Now, what really jumps out in the material we have, and honestly what I find pretty compelling, is Genie and EDR's track record, specifically in the Korean threat landscape, which sounds incredibly tough. What is it about that environment that makes it such a unique and intense proving ground?
Well, what's really interesting is that Genian's threat intelligence consistently points to the ongoing evolving tactics of advanced persistent threat groups, particularly those linked to North Korea. Groups like Kimsuki, Connie, APT-37, these aren't your average cybercriminals after cash. They're sophisticated nation-state actors, deep resources, strategic goals.
So, what kind of tactics are these groups using that make them such a difficult challenge? What makes them different?
Oh, they're masters of deception. They don't just brute force their way in, they trick their way in. Highly targeted social engineering, maybe disguised documents, pretending to be someone else on K-Message or Facebook, even Dropbox. They also exploit supply chain vulnerabilities to get that first foothold. And once they're in,
Hmm.
well, their post-exploitation game is incredibly stealthy.
How
We're
so?
talking fileless malware, lives entirely in memory, never writes to the disk, so traditional AV just doesn't see it. They also use living off the land techniques, meaning they abuse legitimate tools already on your system. Think scripting tools like AutoIt or PowerShell, instead of bringing in their own obvious malware. And then they often deploy sneaky backdoors, remote access Trojans, or RATs like RockRat, AsyncRat, giving them full control, all designed to fly under the radar of standard security.
Wow, okay. That sounds incredibly tricky to defend against, like trying to spot a ghost in the machine. How does Genie and EDR specifically tackle those kinds of subtle behavioral threats?
Genie and EDR uses multi-layered detection. This includes advanced machine learning, but also something called X behavior analysis, or XBA, which is specifically designed for those fileless threats. These engines are really honed to spot those tiny behavioral anomalies, those complex attack chains. This allows for, proactive detection and automated responses against these advanced tactics.
And how does their work in Korea tie into this?
Well, Genian is deeply involved with critical sectors there, government, major financial institutions. They have a huge market share, something like 78% in Korean public procurement. That means Genie and EDR is constantly facing off against and being refined by some of the world's most sophisticated and persistent nation-state threats.
So the lessons learned there, defending against those kinds of attacks, aren't just relevant for Korea. They apply globally.
Absolutely. The insights they gain from analyzing and stopping these high-stakes campaigns are directly transferable. Defending against clever social engineering, fileless attacks, sneaky persistence methods in Korea, that directly builds a stronger defense against similar threats anywhere in the world. It really shows Genie and EDR is, battle-tested against top-tier adversaries.
That definitely speaks volumes about its real-world effectiveness. It sounds like they've really proven their mettle. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. Let's talk EDR capabilities in general and the benefits they offer. First up, real-time endpoint visibility and data collection. What does that actually mean for an organization day to day?
It means the EDR solution is constantly watching and gathering huge amounts of data from endpoints. Everything from file actions, registry changes, processes starting, DLLs loading, even USB device info. And it has to handle potentially billions of these events in real time. This massive data collection gives security teams total visibility. They can understand the full context of anything suspicious happening.
Billions of events. That sounds like finding a needle in a haystack the size of a mountain, and the mountain's growing every second. How do teams actually use that flood of data to find threats?
Well, that rich data, that telemetry, it's the absolute foundation. Without it, all the fancy stuff like machine learning or AI, they just don't have enough information to work with. This real-time detailed data allows for things like attack timeline reconstruction and deep forensic analysis, essential for figuring out exactly how an attack happened and what caused it. It really shifts security away from just cleaning up messes to actively learning and improving defenses.
Okay, so collecting the data is step one. How does EDR then use that data to actually detect those advanced threats we talked about, going beyond just simple signature matching?
Right, it uses several advanced techniques working together. You have IOCs, indicators of compromise, which spot known threats based on digital fingerprints, like a file hash. But more importantly, you have machine learning, sometimes AI-powered detection, identifying unknown threats by spotting weird patterns or anomalies in behavior. Crucial for 0 days. Then there's behavioral analysis, or XBA, which is key. It watches how programs act, not just what they look like. Super effective against those tricky, fileless threats. And finally, many EDRs use Yara rules. Think of them as custom-made search patterns that analysts can write to hunt for very specific characteristics of known or emerging threats. Gives them flexibility. Modern EDR efficacy really hinges on this analytical depth, not just a big list of known viruses.
That sounds incredibly powerful, definitely. But it also sounds like it could still generate a ton of alerts, right? Even sophisticated systems might flag harmless things. How do EDRs help with that dreaded alert fatigue we always hear about in security operations centers, or SOCs?
That's where automated response and remediation are absolutely critical. When EDR spots something serious, it doesn't just wave a flag. It can trigger instant automated actions. This drastically cuts down the manual work needed. For example, it can automatically isolate a compromised machine from the network, kill a malicious process, quarantine a suspect file, or even rollback system changes. That last one is huge for ransomware recovery.
Ah, the rollback feature.
Yeah, and our sources mentioned SOC teams can waste like 30–50% of their time just checking if alerts are real or false positives. Automation tackles this head-on by handling those repetitive high-volume tasks. It frees up the human analyst to focus on the really complex stuff.
Okay, so it handles the routine noise, letting humans focus on the deeper investigation. Which brings us neatly to forensic analysis and threat hunting. What does EDR offer here that really empowers security teams beyond just reacting?
EDR provides powerful tools for analysts to really dig into suspicious activity. They can drill down into specific events, visualize the sequence of actions, the execution chain, and truly grasp the full scope and impact of an alert. This makes in-depth forensic analysis possible, helping teams find root causes and piece together attack timelines accurately.
And the proactive side, getting ahead of the attackers.
Exactly. EDR supports proactive threat hunting. This means actively searching the data for hidden threats, for subtle indicators of compromise before they blow up into a major incident or even trigger a standard alert. Genie EDR, for example, offers features like attack storylines to help visualize these complex flows. It transforms EDR from just a shield into a strategic tool for constantly improving your security posture. Security teams become proactive risk managers, not just firefighters.
Okay, so EDR clearly offers massive advantages. But like any powerful tech, it's not always simple to implement. There must be challenges. What are some of those common hurdles organizations hit when they try to deploy EDR?
That's a fair question. If EDR is so great, what's the catch, right? Well, the first big one is often operational complexity. And yes, alert fatigue again. The sheer amount of data EDR collects can just be overwhelming. Sorting the real threats from the noise is tough. This leads straight back to that alert fatigue. Teams get swamped, maybe miss critical warnings. The source notes that SOCs waste 30–50% of their time validating false positives. So just having more data isn't always better if you can't filter and automate effectively. It takes skilled people and careful tuning.
It's like having a super sensitive microphone that picks up everything, including the traffic outside. You need to filter it. What about the attackers themselves? How are they fighting back against EDR? It sounds like a constant cat and mouse game.
It absolutely is a constant arms race. Adversaries are always cooking up new evasion techniques. They use polymorphic malware that changes its own code to avoid signature detection. They use those fileless attacks, abusing legitimate tools like PowerShell, hiding in memory. They use 0 days, and kind of disturbingly, they actively try EDR or sensor tampering, attempting to kill the EDR agent's processes or delete its drivers. Some even exploit Windows Safe mode, knowing security tools might not run properly there. Those North Korean APT groups we mentioned. They constantly refine obfuscation methods and cleverly use legitimate cloud services to blend in.
That's pretty concerning. They're trying to disable the very thing designed to stop them. Beyond the technical fight, what about the practical side? Resource needs, integration issues for companies.
Yeah, EDR can put a strain on network performance. It often requires beefier hardware, more infrastructure investment. And beyond the license cost, there's ongoing maintenance, and crucially, you need skilled people to operate it and make sense of the data. Plus, a lot of organizations have, a mishmash of security tools that don't talk to each other well, creates gaps in visibility. And a really key point here, EDR focuses on the endpoint. This can create tunnel vision. It might miss attacks moving laterally across the network or data being siphoned out. The source is clear. Endpoint protection alone is no longer enough. EDR needs to be part of a broader security ecosystem.
Powerful, but needs to be part of a team. Okay, that's a perfect lead-in to Genie and EDR. How does it stand out, especially in tackling some of those challenges we just laid out?
Well, Genie and EDR's really unique strength is that deep foundation in network access control, NAC. It's not just bolted on, it's fundamental. NAC gives you real-time monitoring and policy control for every device connecting to your network. This deep native integration lets the EDR see more across the network and, crucially, immediately isolate or fix compromised devices right at the network level. This directly fights lateral movement and breaks through that tunnel vision problem some EDRs have. It offers a much more holistic view.
That NAC integration sounds like a core architectural difference, but let's drill down. How does this specific Genian approach help with those challenges, like alert fatigue or detecting those really tricky threats?
By leveraging NAC, Genie EDR gets fantastic network visibility. It can identify and classify all IP devices connecting in real time, even tricky IoT things. So when a threat hits an endpoint, the NAC part can instantly stop it spreading by cutting off and fixing that device right at the network edge. It bridges endpoint and network security for immediate enforcement. Beyond that, Genie uses multiple detection layers. ML for unknowns, IOCs for knowns, custom YRI rules, and that important X behavior analysis, XBA, specifically for fileless attacks. For investigations, it gives you context, deep analysis, event timelines, all aimed at reducing false positives and making analysts' lives easier.
And I think you mentioned something called the Genian ecosystem earlier. How does that fit into this?
Yes, the Genian ecosystem. That's a really interesting differentiator. It basically shares threat intelligence file reputations, whitelists, alerts, malicious data patterns among all of Genian's customers. It leverages collective wisdom. So a threat seen by one customer helps protect everyone else faster. It acts like a built-in shared reputation system and knowledge base across their whole network.
A collective defense network. That's a really cool concept. How much does that actually speed things up compared to, every company figuring things out on their own? And what about those resource and integration headaches? How does Genian simplify things?
It makes a huge difference. Sharing validated intel means one detection instantly hardens defenses for potentially thousands of others. It's a real force multiplier. On a resource side, Genie EDR is designed to be lightweight. The agent has minimal impact on endpoint performance and network traffic. They also have an agent management server that helps automate device discovery, classification, and policy enforcement, simplifying deployment and management. And critically, for many, especially regulated industries or places with limited internet, Genie EDR processes all its raw event data on premises. No sensitive endpoint data gets shipped to the cloud. That's a major plus for data sovereignty concerns.
That on-prem processing is definitely a big deal for certain sectors. What about handling large scale? Can it cope with those billions of events?
Absolutely. It's built for it. Designed for large deployments, high event volumes, processing billions of events in real time. It uses a scalable architecture, supports clustering so it can grow with the organization's needs, and for companies maybe without a big in-house security team. Genie offers Managed Detection and Response, or MDR, services. They provide the expertise for deep threat investigation, live response, basically acting as your SOC as a service.
Okay, so it sounds like Genie and EDR has some really compelling arguments, especially that NIC integration and the Korean track record. But like any tech choice, there are always things to consider. What might organizations want to think about when looking at it in the wider cybersecurity market?
That's fair. It's important to look at the whole picture. While Genie is dominant in Korea and growing globally, one thing organizations might consider is the level of widespread global brand recognition, or maybe the availability of extensive public independent benchmark tests, like public ITER NET and CK evaluations. Compared to some of the largest, longest established global EDR players, finding direct public comparisons might sometimes require a bit more digging during due diligence.
Makes sense. And what about the trend towards XDR, extended detection and response? How does Genie and EDR fit into that bigger picture?
Right. Genie and EDR integrates tightly with NAOC and SIEM, giving strong endpoint and network visibility. But the broader industry push with XDR is often about unifying security across even more domains: cloud, identity, email security, all under one roof, potentially. Organizations looking for that super broad single pane of glass across a very diverse IT landscape might need to evaluate the full scope of different vendors' XDR offerings. Also, while Genie definitely uses machine learning effectively, some other large platforms are investing heavily in massive-scale AML models for global threat hunting, or even integrating generative AI into security ops. The scale and application of that very advanced AI might be another point of comparison, depending on specific needs.
That's a great balanced view. Okay, let's bring it back to you, the listener. Let's talk strategy for anyone managing endpoint security. What's the absolute first thing they need to grasp about deploying and optimizing EDR?
The crucial thing is, EDR is not set it and forget it. It just isn't. Success demands careful planning upfront, continuous configuration, ongoing tuning, and having skilled people involved. For smaller businesses or those without big internal teams, looking at managed detection and response, MDR services, can be incredibly valuable. You get the expertise without the massive overhead. Prioritizing alerts and integrating properly with SIEM or SOAR tools is also key to avoid drowning in data.
Right, it's an ongoing commitment, not just a product purchase. And we touched on this, but maybe reinforce it. How does EDR fit into the bigger security picture? Why can't it just operate in a silo?
Because endpoint protection alone truly is no longer enough. EDR is a vital cornerstone, yes, but it has to be part of a bigger strategy. Extended Detection and Response, XDR, aims to pull together data from endpoints, networks, cloud, email, identity, giving a much fuller picture of threats. Things like AI-driven insights and zero-trust models also boost EDR's effectiveness by adding context and control. Genian's NAC integration is a great example of this, preventing spread at the network level. EDR is a critical piece of layered defense, working together with other tools.
Okay, finally, let's talk about that shift. Moving from just reacting to incidents towards proactive threat hunting and continuous improvement. How does EDR actually enable that really important evolution?
EDR is fundamental to that shift. Its continuous monitoring and deep data storage let organizations actively hunt for hidden threats, those subtle IOCs, before they cause major damage. The detailed logs aren't just for cleanup after an attack, they're goldmines for compliance, auditing, and figuring out how to strengthen defenses. So EDR data becomes a strategic asset. It helps you learn, adapt, identify weak spots, and constantly improve your security posture. It turns security from reactive firefighting into proactive risk reduction. You learn from every single interaction.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really clear endpoint detection and response is absolutely central to modern security. It's indispensable for tackling those sophisticated, evasive threats using real-time visibility, advanced detection, automation, and those critical forensic tools.
And Genie EDR brings a unique edge with that deep native NAC integration. It provides unified visibility, unified control across endpoints and the network, enabling rapid, automated containment. Add in the multi-layer detection ML, XBA for fileless threats, the collective intelligence from the Genie ecosystem, and its proven toughness in Korea's critical sectors. It definitely stands out.
It's also a constant reminder, isn't it, that advanced attackers, like those North Korean APT groups, they just keep evolving. Implementing EDR isn't a one-off project. It's an ongoing operational process. Needs skilled people, careful setup, and smooth integration with everything else: SIEM, SOAR, NSE.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener. How might this deep dive into EDR, especially seeing how it performs against real-world nation-state threats, shape how you think about prioritizing an integrated security strategy? How can you use the rich intelligence from EDR not just to defend, but to actually anticipate and adapt your defenses against whatever sophisticated threats are coming next?
That's a powerful question to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.